The calm before the storm. The galaxy was peaceful, or at least that's what most people believed. For centuries, Earth had been a quiet little planet, tucked away in a corner of the vast universe. Humans, living in their bustling cities and busy lives, had no idea that their existence was about to be changed forever. Earth had always been considered insignificant by the other powerful species that roamed the stars. Humans weren't part of any grand galactic empire, and they weren't known for being mighty warriors or advanced in technology. But the universe was about to learn that humanity had something far more dangerous than advanced ships or weapons: human ingenuity and an unshakable will to survive. On board the Defender, the lone human ship, things seemed just as ordinary. The ship wasn't anything extraordinary compared to the massive warships from the galactic empires. It was a simple exploration vessel, just one of many that had been sent out to monitor the stars. Its captain, Commander John Hale, stood on the bridge, staring out at the view of space through the ship's glass windows. The stars twinkled in the distance, calm and distant, just like the life he had known. The crew was small, just a handful of men and women, all trained for various tasks, but never expecting to face anything more dangerous than a minor mechanical failure or a broken navigation system. The mission was supposed to be routine: survey the nearby systems and collect data. The Defender had been in space for weeks, drifting silently through the stars with no trouble at all. But something was wrong. The quiet hum of the ship's engines, the steady blinking of the control panels, and the soft chatter of the crew members working on their duties were all starting to feel out of place. The deep space sensors, which were always set to detect anything unusual, were suddenly picking up strange signals. It wasn't much at first, just a flicker on the radar, like a whisper that couldn't quite be heard. But it was enough to get Commander Hale's attention. "Captain, we're picking up something odd," reported Lieutenant Sarah Mills, the ship's communications officer. Her voice was calm, but there was a hint of uncertainty as she turned toward Hale. Commander Hale looked up from his station, his eyes narrowing. "What do you mean by odd?" he asked, his voice steady, yet laced with curiosity. Mills quickly adjusted the controls, her fingers flying over the touch-sensitive panel. The room fell silent as the crew watched her work. After a few tense moments, she turned back to Hale, her expression a mix of confusion and concern. "The signal. It's coming from deep within the Epsilon Quadrant, but it's not like anything we've ever encountered before. It's too strong, almost like a beacon, but not one we've been trained to recognize." Hale stood still for a moment, processing the information. "Have you tried isolating the signal? Maybe it's just interference." Mills nodded, but her fingers moved over the controls again. She shook her head after a moment. "No, Captain. It's not interference. It's deliberate. Someone, or something, has sent this signal." A cold shiver ran down Hale's spine. It wasn't often that they encountered anything truly strange in their explorations. The vastness of space had always seemed to stretch on forever, empty and silent. There were no signs of intelligent life, no contact from any advanced civilizations, nothing to suggest that they weren't alone. But now it seemed like the silence was broken, and that break was something far from peaceful. Could it be a distress signal? Hale asked, his mind racing. There were plenty of ships lost in the galaxy, and any number of them could have sent out a desperate call for help. It wasn't impossible. Mills's brow furrowed. "I don't think so. It's too structured, too organized to be a distress signal. This is something else, and it's coming closer." Hale walked over to her console, studying the readings. He didn't like it. There was something about this whole situation that didn't sit right with him. "Prepare the crew," Hale ordered, turning back to the others. "We'll alter course and head toward the source of the signal. Keep the shields up and weapons ready, just in case." Mills hesitated for a moment before responding. "Captain, we don't know what we're walking into. This could be a trap." Hale met her gaze, his expression serious. "I know, but we can't ignore it. If there's something, or someone, out there, we need to know what it is before someone else does. The crew members on the bridge moved into action. They didn't have much to go on, but they knew their mission: explore the unknown and report back. They had no choice but to head toward the mysterious signal, even if it meant walking straight into danger. The ship turned, heading toward the unknown. As they moved deeper into the Epsilon quadrant, the quiet tension on the bridge grew. No one spoke. It wasn't fear that kept them silent, but a growing sense of anticipation. Something was coming, something that no one had expected. Commander Hale stood at the front, his eyes fixed on the view ahead. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a simple exploration mission. They were about to face something that would change everything they knew about the universe. And as the Defender sailed deeper into space, the crew had no idea that they were already being watched by forces far greater, far more powerful, and far more dangerous than anything they could ever imagine. The calm before the storm was about to end, and when it did, nothing would ever be the same again. The threat unveiled. The Defender cruised through the stars, drawing closer to the source of the mysterious signal. The tension was palpable, thicker than the silence that enveloped the ship. Commander Hale stood at the bridge's front, eyes glued to the stars ahead, his mind working in overdrive. His instincts told him this was no ordinary signal. It felt like something calculated, something deliberate. And the feeling deepened with every minute. "Captain," Lieutenant Mills called from her station, her voice tight with urgency. "I'm getting a clearer reading. The signal, it's coming from an asteroid field just outside the Tiburon Nebula. There's something there. I don't know what, but it's not natural." Hale's heart skipped a beat. The Tiburon Nebula was known for its danger: dense clouds of gas, shifting asteroids, and unpredictable cosmic storms. No one ventured there unless absolutely necessary. But this, whatever this was drawing them straight into the heart of it. "Set course for the nebula," Hale commanded. His voice was calm, but the tension in the air spoke louder than any words could. "Prepare the ship. We may have to navigate through some turbulence, so get ready for anything." The crew moved quickly, securing equipment and checking the systems. Every movement felt deliberate, as if everyone knew that the fate of their mission, perhaps even the fate of Earth itself, hung in the balance. As they approached the nebula, the ship began to shake slightly. The usual hum of the engines was replaced by an eerie low buzz, as if the ship itself sensed the danger. Outside the window, the dark clouds of the nebula swirled like a storm waiting to unleash its fury. Tiny flashes of light occasionally flickered in the distance, lightning, but not from the stars. It was chaotic and beautiful, a silent warning. "This is it," Hale said softly. "We're close." The crew held their breath as the ship entered the nebula. The sensors began to struggle with the interference, unable to detect anything clearly through the thick clouds. Everything outside the ship seemed distorted, and the asteroid field ahead looked like a maze of floating rock and debris. A perfect place to hide something. But what? Suddenly, the ship jolted forward as a massive force gripped the Defender. Everyone was thrown back into their seats. Alarms blared, and lights flickered. The control panel in front of Mills exploded with warnings and error messages. "Hold on," Hale barked. "Brace for impact." Before anyone could react, the Defender was thrust into the heart of the asteroid field. Meteors, some as large as buildings, whizzed past the ship, narrowly missing it. The crew scrambled to regain control, but the ship was being pulled by something unseen, something stronger than any gravitational force they had ever encountered. Mills fought with the controls, trying to steady the ship. "Captain, we're being pulled by something. It's not natural. I can't break free." The captain's mind raced. What kind of power could be manipulating the Defender like this? Was it a hidden weapon? A trap? The ship groaned under the pressure as more alarms blared. They couldn't stay here much longer. Just as Hale was about to order an emergency retreat, a new signal blared through the ship's speakers. Loud, deep, and unmistakable. This was no ordinary distress signal. It wasn't a call for help. It was a command. "Identify yourself," a voice boomed, amplified through every speaker on the ship. The voice was cold and mechanical, yet carried an underlying force that seemed to shake the very foundations of the Defender. Hale's heart stopped. The voice wasn't from another human. It was something alien. "Who are you?" Hale demanded, his voice steady despite the rising fear in his chest. There was a pause, and then the voice returned, even colder than before. "We are the Talarian Armada. Your planet is under our jurisdiction. Prepare to surrender." The word surrender sent a chill down the spine of every crew member. The reality of the situation crashed into them all at once. This wasn't a random encounter. This was an invasion. And it wasn't just any invasion. It was an empire of immense power, one that had come for Earth. "We won't surrender," Hale responded, his voice unwavering. "Not without a fight." The alien voice didn't respond immediately. Instead, a deep rumble echoed through the Defender, and the ship's hull groaned under the stress. The Defender was being pulled closer to the center of the asteroid field, trapped in an invisible force field. "We will obliterate your ship if you do not comply," the voice stated simply. "This is your final warning." The Defender was now surrounded by the Talarian Armada's ships, hidden among the asteroids and the swirling nebula clouds. The crew had no choice. They were in enemy territory, and if they couldn't escape, they would be destroyed. Hale stood still, his thoughts racing. The odds were overwhelming. The Talarian Armada was a force that had crushed entire star systems, and their weapons were legendary. The Defender, one small human ship, had no chance in a direct confrontation. But then, Hale's gaze flicked to the crew. They were humans, and humans, despite being small in the eyes of the galaxy, had something no other species could understand: creativity, resourcefulness, and a stubborn refusal to give up. "Get ready, everyone," Hale said, his voice sharp and clear. "This isn't over yet. We'll find a way out of this." The crew nodded, their faces filled with determination. The Defender might have been outmatched, but it was far from outclassed. There had to be a way. There always was. As the ship was pulled deeper into the heart of the Talarian trap, the stage was set for a battle that would shock the universe, and it was a battle that humanity would fight with everything they had. No one would give up. Not now, not ever. The storm had arrived, and the humans were ready to face it. The human resolve. The cold, mechanical voice of the Talarian Armada echoed once more, vibrating through the walls of the Defender. Commander Hale could feel every word sink into his bones. Surrender now or face annihilation. It was a simple ultimatum, but one that carried the weight of entire galaxies. Hale stood motionless in the center of the bridge, the glow of the star maps casting a dim light across his stern face. His mind raced. The odds were stacked against them. An entire galactic fleet, more advanced than humanity had ever encountered, ready to wipe out Earth's best hope of survival. One small ship and a crew of brave, untested souls. "Captain," Lieutenant Mill's voice trembled slightly as she turned to him. "They're serious. The ships are getting into position. I don't know how much time we have." Hale didn't flinch. His eyes locked onto the approaching ships on the radar, their ominous silhouettes appearing against the asteroid field. A dozen massive warships, their sleek bodies designed for intimidation, hovered just outside their firing range. Each one alone could obliterate the Defender. Together, they were a nightmare made real. "Lieutenant, I need you to track the movements of their fleet," Hale ordered, his voice calm but resolute. "Don't let anything slip through." "Yes, sir," Mills replied, her fingers dancing across the console, as the rest of the crew scrambled to prepare for whatever was coming. Despite the crushing weight of the situation, Hale's mind had already shifted into overdrive. He wasn't about to let his crew go down without a fight, not without exploring every option, no matter how unlikely. A thought lingered in his mind. Humans may not have the advanced technology of the Talarian armada, but they had something far more dangerous: ingenuity. They had creativity, a weapon the galaxy could not measure. And Hale wasn't ready to give up on that just yet. Communications, Hale barked. Get me their leader. Now. Mills worked quickly, bypassing several systems to establish a direct line to the Talarian fleet. After a tense moment, the screen flickered to life, revealing the face of an imposing Talarian commander. His eyes glowed with an unsettling light, his expression hard and emotionless. "Commander Hale," the Talarian voice said, its tone like ice. "You've made a grave mistake. You've drawn your ship too close. Now your planet will pay the price for your defiance." Hale squared his shoulders, refusing to show fear. "You can't understand what you're dealing with. We may be small, but we will not bow to your demands." The Talarian commander tilted his head slightly, almost in curiosity. "And what exactly do you think you can do, human? You are trapped. Your ship is nothing more than a toy in the face of our fleet." Hale's gaze sharpened. "We'll see about that." Without waiting for a response, he ended the transmission, and the crew exchanged tense glances. Every second felt like an eternity, the silence unbearable as the ships drew closer. "Captain," said Lieutenant Hunter, the ship's weapons officer, breaking the stillness, "I've been studying their fleet. We have two weaknesses we can exploit. First, the energy shields around their warships are formidable, but they're not impervious. A well-placed shot could cause a temporary disruption. Second, we're dealing with a coordinated fleet. If we can create confusion, we might be able to break through." Hale's eyes narrowed. "I need more than that. A distraction won't be enough." Hunter nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "Sir, I've also noticed something interesting. The Talarian ships seem to communicate in a specific frequency band. If we can hack into their communications, even for a moment, we might be able to jam their coordination." Hale's mind whirred with possibilities. A chance to cause chaos. This was their opening. "All right," Hale said, his voice full of resolve. "We'll use their arrogance against them. Get ready, everyone. We're going to hit them where it hurts." The crew moved with precision, each member knowing their role in the coming battle. Mills continued to monitor the fleet, looking for any sign of weakness. Hunter worked feverishly to adjust the ship's weapons systems, ready to target the gaps in the enemy's defenses. The defender may have been outgunned, but it was fast, it was agile, and it was human. The tension on the bridge was thick, but underneath it all was a shared belief, an unspoken promise. They would never surrender. Hale turned back to the main view, his eyes locked on the enemy warships. They were closing in, but he had no intention of letting them have the first strike. Not today. "Everyone, to your stations," he commanded. "This is humanity's fight. We will not go quietly into the dark. We fight for Earth. We fight for our future." The crew nodded, ready for what was to come. They knew this was not just about one ship against a fleet. It was about survival. It was about defying the odds and proving that humanity, no matter how small, could stand against any force that threatened their home. As the defender braced for impact, Hale clenched his fists. The storm had come to Earth's doorstep, but they would not let it pass. Not without a fight. The first strike. The defender shuddered as the first blast of enemy fire tore through the vast emptiness of space. It wasn't a direct hit, but the shockwave rattled the ship's frame, sending a jolt through every crew member. Commander Hale's eyes widened for a brief moment as he realized that the Talarian armada had opened fire. They were no longer simply hovering. They were in attack mode. "Shields up," Hale barked, his voice cutting through the rising tension. "Brace for impact." The bridge trembled once again as the ship's energy shields flared to life, glowing a bright blue as they absorbed another barrage of fire. The defender groaned under the strain, but it held together. The human ship was fragile compared to the Talarian behemoths, but its resilience was unmatched. Hale could feel it in his bones. This ship wasn't just made of steel and circuits. It was made of human determination. "Status report," Hale demanded, his eyes scanning the tactical display. "Shields holding at 70%, Captain," Lieutenant Mills reported, her voice steady despite the pressure. "They're targeting our engines, likely trying to disable our mobility." "Not going to happen," Hale muttered under his breath, his fingers gripping the command chair. "Hunter, prepare to return fire. Let's give them a taste of their own medicine." "Ready when you are, sir," came the sharp reply from the weapons officer. "We've got their shields locked, but we'll need a clear shot." Hale's eyes narrowed. The Defender was agile, but it wasn't invincible. The Talarian ships were closing in fast, each one a massive fortress, and they weren't about to give the human ship any room to maneuver. Hale knew the odds were against them, but there was something in his gut, a feeling he couldn't explain, a spark that refused to go out. Humanity had faced impossible odds before and survived. This was no different. "Lieutenant Hunter, target their weak points," Hale commanded. "We need to make them doubt themselves." The crew responded with precision, a well-oiled machine in the face of destruction. Hunter's fingers flew over the controls, the weapon systems activating with a low hum. A moment later, the Defender released a volley of energy blasts toward the nearest Talarian ship. The enemy's shields flickered briefly before stabilizing, but the hit had been enough. A few of the blasts had managed to slip through their defenses, leaving cracks in the armor of the warship. It wasn't much, but it was a start. "Direct hit on their starboard side," Hunter reported, his voice a mix of relief and excitement. "Their shields are weakening. We have an opening." "Good," Hale replied, his face grim. "Now we make them regret underestimating us." The Defender spun on its axis, narrowly dodging another wave of incoming fire. The crew was working in perfect sync, the tension of the situation forcing them to rely on each other more than ever before. Mills tracked the Talarian ships, calculating every move, while Hunter adjusted the targeting systems with relentless focus. But it wasn't just the enemy fleet they had to worry about. The Talarian commander was now aware of humanity's resilience, and he would not go down without a fight. "All ships, concentrate fire on the human vessel," the Talarian commander's voice boomed across the comms. "No mercy. Leave nothing left standing." The words were harsh, but Hale could hear the hint of desperation in them. The Talarian commander was starting to see the Defender as more than just a nuisance. This was no longer a simple battle for Earth's survival. It had become a battle for the very pride of the Talarian armada. But Hale wasn't about to let them win. He stood up from his chair, his voice steady and full of fire. "Listen up, everyone," he called out to the bridge crew. "They think we're weak. They think this ship is a target. But what they don't understand is that humans never give up. No matter the odds, no matter the threat, we'll stand tall. This ship may be small, but it's a symbol of everything we are. We fight for our home, for our people, and we will make them regret ever stepping foot in our galaxy." The crew erupted in a chorus of determined nods and silent affirmations. Each of them understood the stakes now. This was no longer just a mission. It was a statement. The Defender wasn't just a ship, it was humanity's defiance. And as the enemy fleet closed in, Hale made his next move. "Lieutenant Mills, are we in range to jam their communications?" Hale asked, his voice hard. "Almost there, Captain," Mills replied, her fingers a blur as she worked the console. "Ready to intercept their command frequency." "Good," Hale said, his voice low and intense. "When you're ready, I want you to jam their communications, create confusion, make them second-guess every move." With a quick nod, Mills activated the jamming system, and for a brief moment, the Talarian fleet's coordination faltered. Their ships scattered, unable to communicate as efficiently. A flicker of doubt spread through their lines. "We've got them off balance," Mills said, her voice tinged with triumph. "But it won't last long. We need to act fast." "Then we act now," Hale said. "Hunter, get ready to fire at their command ship." The Defender took a sharp turn, weaving through incoming fire as it closed in on the Talarian flagship. In the midst of the chaos, the human ship had found its opening. It wasn't much, but it was enough. The crew's hearts raced, adrenaline coursing through their veins as the moment of truth arrived. Hale gripped the armrests of his chair. The next few seconds would decide everything. Fire. The turning tide. The Defender rocketed forward, its engines flaring as it cut through the void, weaving in and out of the barrage from the Talarian fleet. The ship felt like it was barely holding together, but Hale's crew refused to show any signs of weakness. Every member knew that survival wasn't just about firing weapons or dodging attacks. It was about outsmarting the enemy, using every advantage the Defender had. Agility, creativity, and above all, their sheer will to survive. "Direct hit on their command vessel," shouted Lieutenant Hunter from the weapons console. The display lit up with red flashing warnings. The Defender's shots had punctured the Talarian flagship's shields, leaving a gaping hole in its outer armor. The commander's eyes glinted with something close to victory, but he knew this was only the beginning. "We're not done yet," Hale said firmly, standing tall in the command chair. They'd been shaken, but they haven't given up. "Keep pushing. We need to break their will." The Defender spun once more, narrowly avoiding a volley of plasma shots. Commander Hale's heart raced as he surveyed the chaotic battlefield. The Talarian fleet, though massive, was becoming more disorganized by the minute. Their communication systems were still jammed, and they had yet to recover from the initial shock of human ingenuity. The fear in their movements was palpable. "Captain, we've got incoming," Lieutenant Mills said urgently, pointing to the tactical display. "It's a new wave of reinforcements, larger ships, this time." The Defender's sensors picked up the massive Talarian reinforcements coming out of hyperspace, a dozen ships that dwarfed the original attackers. They were even bigger, more heavily armored, and bristling with weapons. The fight was far from over. Hale's mind raced. The situation was growing more dangerous by the second. These new ships weren't just reinforcements. They were reinforcements that were designed to crush human resistance. Their firepower would be overwhelming, and their size would make them harder to outmaneuver. "Hold on," Hale commanded, his voice sharper than ever. "We'll need to be smarter. Let's hit them where they least expect it." Mills looked at him, her eyes filled with a mix of concern and admiration. "You've got an idea." Hale's lips curled into a confident smile. "Yes, this isn't about brute strength. It's about speed, precision, and timing. Hunter, get the engines ready for a hard burn. I want us to move in close, very close." "On it, sir," Hunter replied, already working on the ship's controls. The Defender zoomed in toward the Talarian reinforcements, closing the distance with astonishing speed. The larger ships weren't designed to be nimble. They were built for sheer firepower, and in that respect, they excelled. But the Defender was like a hornet compared to a lumbering elephant. It could dart in and out of their range, strike, and then disappear before they could retaliate. Firing at their rear engines, Hunter called out. A series of sharp, crackling blasts shot from the Defender's guns, hitting the rear thrusters of one of the reinforcements. The ship's engines sputtered, sending it into an uncontrolled spin. The Talarian crew scrambled, but it was too late. The Defender had struck exactly where it hurt. The massive ship veered off course, colliding with another one of its comrades. Chaos erupted within the Talarian ranks. "Nice shot," Mills cheered, her fingers still moving quickly across the tactical console. But there was no time to celebrate. The enemy commander was furious. The remaining ships began to regroup, and their fire intensified. The Defender was now in the thick of the battle, surrounded by enemies on all sides. Yet Hale remained calm, focused on the mission at hand. "Don't stop," he said through gritted teeth. "We hit them once, we can do it again. We know how they move. They don't." The crew felt it then, a spark of hope, an undeniable sense that the impossible might just be within reach. Commander Hale had been right. The Talarian armada might have the numbers and firepower, but humanity had something far more potent: adaptability, innovation, and the will to fight. New wave coming in, Mills shouted, pointing to the display. Hold the line. Hale ordered, his voice unwavering. We're going to break them, one ship at a time. And just like that, the human ship began to turn the tide. Hale's crew had become a whirlwind of action, each crew member executing their duties with precision, each member working together as if their lives depended on it. Because they did. The Talarian ships, once confident and menacing, were starting to slow down. They had underestimated the humans' ability to disrupt their strategies, to get inside their defenses. A sharp screech echoed through the defender's hull as another blast of enemy fire grazed its shields, but the ship didn't falter. Hale could see it now, the fear in the Talarian ships, the uncertainty creeping into their ranks. They were starting to realize that one human ship, against all odds, was making a stand that could change the entire course of this battle. We've got them on the ropes, Hunter said, a hint of awe in his voice. But we've still got work to do. Hale nodded grimly. This isn't over. Not by a long shot, but we're making them think twice. That's all we need. The final assault. The defender moved like a ghost through the battlefield, darting between hulking enemy ships, staying just one step ahead of the destruction that surrounded it. Commander Hale could feel the weight of the battle bearing down on him, but he never showed it. His mind was focused, his thoughts clear, and the adrenaline coursing through him fueled every decision. The crew followed his lead, their confidence building with every successful strike. We've done enough damage to their flanks. Now it's time to strike at the heart, Hale said, his voice firm, determined. Prepare for the final push. Lieutenant Mills gave him a quick nod as her fingers danced over the console. Switching to direct assault mode, they won't know what hit them. The Talarian fleet, though shaken, still hadn't fully regrouped. The larger reinforcements were still reeling from the earlier surprise attacks. The defender had used hit-and-run tactics to great effect, causing chaos in their ranks. Now, the time had come to deal the final blow. The defender was running low on ammunition, its hull battered, and its shields flickering weakly, but Hale knew they couldn't stop now. They had to end it. Full speed ahead, Hale ordered, gripping the command chair as the ship lurched forward. The crew braced themselves. The final assault would be the most dangerous yet, but Hale's mind was sharp, and his crew was ready. The Talarian ships, still reeling from their confusion, were beginning to form up once more. But it was too late. The defender had already launched a series of decoy drones, small, fast, and designed to draw enemy fire. The drones scattered across the field, creating a false impression of multiple human ships. The Talarian gunners fired in frenzy, but each shot missed, further depleting their ammunition. Now, Hale shouted, his eyes never leaving the target. The defender shot forward, its engines roaring with all the power they had left. The Talarian command ship, unaware of the defender's true position, continued to issue orders to its fleet, believing the drones were the true threat. The defender broke through their lines, narrowly missing a barrage of fire, and locked onto the heart of the enemy formation, their flagship. Direct hit on their shields, Lieutenant Hunter confirmed, a grin spreading across his face. The defender had closed the gap. Now, the final confrontation had begun. But the Talarian flagship wasn't going down without a fight. Its guns fired with terrifying precision, and the defender shuddered under the assault. Shields flickered, then flared brightly as the ship took another direct hit. Sparks flew from several systems, and the hull groaned under the pressure. "Hold on," Hale yelled, his voice loud over the rising din. "We're not stopping until we make them pay for every inch of this battle." He motioned to Mills. "Recalibrate the targeting system. We need to breach their core. No more distractions. No more hesitation." Mills didn't need to be told twice. on it, ready for impact in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Defender's weapon systems roared to life, firing a concentrated blast straight at the Talarian flagship's main reactor. The shot hit, and for a moment, everything seemed to pause. Time itself seemed to hold its breath. Then the explosion ripped through the Talarian ship's center. The massive flagship shuddered, and a blinding light exploded from its core. The entire Talarian fleet froze as their flagship, the pride of their armada, crumbled into pieces. Pieces of metal and debris shot out in all directions, the shockwave cascading through the battlefield. For a long moment, there was nothing but silence. Then, slowly, the remnants of the Talarian fleet began to retreat. The surviving ships pulled back, their commanders realizing that they had no chance of winning this fight. The mighty Talarian armada, once an unstoppable force, had been shattered by one ship, a single human ship. "We did it," Hunter breathed, barely able to believe it. "We actually did it." Hale stood still, staring at the wreckage of the Talarian fleet. The victory was theirs, but there was no sense of triumph, only relief. The battle had cost them dearly, and many lives had been lost. But the fact remained: the human race had shown the galaxy what it was capable of. "The universe will never forget this day," Hale murmured under his breath. "But the question remains, what will we do with this victory?" Mills turned toward him, a thoughtful look on her face. "We've shown them that we won't be dominated. That's something we can build on." "Yes," Hale said, looking at the stars. "We've just begun. This battle was only the beginning." As the Defender drifted slowly into the void, its crew battered and weary but alive, they knew the war was far from over. The Talarian fleet might have retreated, but the universe was full of threats. And now, humanity had proven that it would fight, that it would never back down. The fight for the future had just begun, and Commander Hale's crew would be ready for whatever came next. The aftermath. A new dawn for humanity. The stars stretched out before them, endless and silent, as the Defender drifted slowly through the vastness of space. Commander Hale stood on the bridge, looking out into the black void. The battle was over, but the consequences of their victory were just beginning to unfold. The remnants of the Talarian fleet scattered, the surviving ships limping away, crippled and broken. The galaxy would not forget this battle, but what would it mean for humanity? "We did it," Lieutenant Mills whispered beside him, her voice tinged with awe. "We actually won." Hale nodded, though his gaze remained fixed on the horizon. The victory had been hard won, and it felt like a dream. A human ship, just one, had taken on an entire galactic armada and lived to tell the tale. But even as the echoes of the battle faded, Hale knew that this was only the beginning. "The galaxy won't forget us," he said, his voice calm but determined. "But we have to be ready. This victory might have made us a target, not a hero. The Talarian Empire won't forget the humiliation we've caused them." Mills frowned, but she knew he was right. The power structures of the galaxy wouldn't take kindly to a single human ship challenging their dominance. This battle would spark fear in the hearts of the galaxy's empires, but it would also attract new threats. The Defender and its crew had proven that humanity had the will to fight, but it had also painted a target on their backs. "What's next, sir?" Lieutenant Hunter asked from his station, his voice heavy with the weight of the aftermath. "We've shown them what we can do, but how do we protect ourselves from what's coming?" Hale's eyes narrowed as he considered the question. He didn't have all the answers, but one thing was clear. Humanity could never go back to the way things were before. The old world of peaceful ignorance was gone, replaced by a new reality where every choice, every decision, could mean the difference between survival and extinction. "We rebuild," Hale said finally, "but we don't do it alone. We need to reach out, find allies among the stars. We've proven that we're not to be underestimated, but we need others to see that we're more than just fighters. We need to show them that we're builders, creators, innovators. Mills looked up at him, her eyes sharp and full of resolve. You mean we don't just defend ourselves, we grow, we expand? Exactly, Hale replied. We fought for survival. Now we fight for the future. Our victory against the Tellurian fleet proves that we can stand toe-to-toe with the strongest forces in the galaxy. But we need to make sure that every threat knows we're not just a one-off anomaly. We're not just human. It's time the galaxy learned that humanity is more than just resilient. We're capable of changing the game, and we need to start making our own future. As Hale turned away from the viewport, he could feel the weight of the decision settling on his shoulders. The path ahead wouldn't be easy. They had survived the battle, but the real challenge would be navigating the fallout. Every empire, every alien race watching them now, would be making their own calculations. Would they try to crush humanity's newfound strength, or would they join forces with them, recognizing that humanity's ingenuity might be the key to shaping the future of the galaxy? Behind him, the crew of the Defender was already getting to work. There was no time for celebration. They were on high alert, aware that the true consequences of their actions were still to come. The ship's systems were damaged, its crew exhausted, but they were alive. They had proved to themselves and the universe that they could survive, and now it was time to prove they could thrive. We need to find a way to communicate with other races. We need allies, Hale said, and we need to make sure they understand we won't back down from any challenge. Not now. Not ever. Mills stepped forward, her expression hardening into a determined smile. We've already made our mark. Let's make sure the galaxy never forgets the name of the Defender. Hale felt a rare moment of pride surge through him. The road ahead would be fraught with dangers, no doubt, but the crew of the Defender had proven that humanity was more than just a target. They were a force to be reckoned with, and they would fight for their place in the stars. As the Defender slowly began to move away from the battlefield, Hale took one last look at the wreckage of the Tellurian fleet, still smoldering in space. This victory would be remembered by every corner of the galaxy. The question now was, how would humanity respond to the challenges that were sure to follow? The universe was watching, and for the first time, humanity stood tall, ready to face whatever the future would bring.